What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Rams Brothers, the pod. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined by the other host of this show, Nick. And Nick, we're back. 5 in a row. We went to M&T Bank Stadium. We got a win in enemy territory. How do you feel?
Really good. It was fun experience going to that game. We had great seats, um, and then to feel like you're going to lose the entire time and then pull it out at the very end. That's to be there for that experience is it's a feeling unlike no other.
You know what? It's interesting. We were talking about this before we decided to buy tickets to the game. We were like, you know what? Is it worth the investment? Because it's a long day, right? You got to make the trip. And if you're a diehard and you are hopeful that they're going to pull out a win in the end, even though they were down 13-7 at halftime. So it's very unlikely that they were going to come back and win that game. They ended up winning 20-19. But to make the trip, we got to go together. We were with my two brother-in-laws as well. It was just a hell of a time. Got to meet a lot of really good fans. Fans actually came up, introduced themselves. So shout out to you guys. I had a chance to meet everybody. But Nick, I mean, just the experience. I mean, we could start it off right at the top. Just kind of the takeaway from being as close as we were. Obviously, the Rams won their fifth straight game in M&T Bank Stadium this past Sunday, improved to 12-4, and they're now they're 12-4 moving forward, 8-8. The Ravens are without Lamar Jackson. They're going to be a team that's continuously fighting for their playoff lives without Lamar Jackson. You saw that in this game; their backs were up against the wall. But we were able to make the trip, and 5 seems to be the magic number right now as we look ahead. It's the amount of times that the 49ers have beaten us in a row. It's the amount of games we've won in a row, as well as the current spread favoring the Rams. And 5 is also the number of games that remains if the Rams have true Super Bowl aspirations. So we're going to discuss some of the big takeaways in this game and the win against
It's also
Baltimore.
the seed number that they'll have if they lose.
Oh, good. Yeah. Nice. Way to drop that in there. We'll talk about playoff seeding as well. We'll talk about potential playoff scenarios. The AFC right now is currently dealing with 256 different playoff scenarios for week 18. So the NFC is not that crazy. We're not going to go through all of that. We're going to dig into it as it relates to the Rams. But Nick, I'll just kick it over to you. Takeaways from being as close we were. You got to see Sean McVay in action. You got to see Aaron Donald up close in person. What were your thoughts?
Um, to me, my favorite part of it all, because I mean, you are so close. Like we saw a legitimate fight happen between Rapp and Ramsey and Rapp and all these other defensive players, and then you get like glimpses of that on television, but after the fight, you see him over there on the bike. You see him like kind of pissed off, like body language throughout the rest of the game, and that's just like really interesting. I've never been that close to the players before. It almost felt like WWE in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I do.
I
Just
was like,
courtside.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was just like shocked that I was like, oh wow, these are the people that that we talk about on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I mean, just to see Sean McVay in action, just to see the coaches interact with Taylor Rapp as he was disengaging with the team, right? He was taking off of his cleats. He was getting work on the bike. He was emotional off to the sideline. To see the coaches go over and help him, to see sideline reporter DeMarco Farr, who was a former player, was Aaron Donald before Aaron Donald, just to see his size, see him in person, looks like a former player. Just really cool stuff being on the sideline. So those are just kind of like our initial takeaways from being that up close and personal. But everything from Rams fans being there, supporting. You heard whenever Cooper Kupp had a big chant, you heard Coop loud throughout the stadium. Like it was just the support was all there. JB Long was there. Demoff was there. So really good stuff. The Rams do travel. Rams fans do travel, and Rams fans are becoming relevant once again. So it was kind of good to see everybody kind of come together. But the game itself, the time of possession battle, the Ravens game plan. Nick, I'll just get your thoughts right off the top. I mean, kind of a frustrating game to watch as a Rams fan. It was a little bit agitating sitting there and just watching the Ravens kind of outpossess you, run the ball, control the clock, all things, all the above.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is two things. You have a quarterback that can single-handedly give the other team the game, and then also single-handedly win you the game.
Right. Right.
So, you know, the entire time I'm thinking this defense is doing everything that they need to do to win this game. Like it's a Lamarless team. They're not out there throwing up like giant amount of points. It's just we had nothing working on offense to start this game. So I was really I was really happy for what I saw in the beginning from the defense. And then like after, you know, offense is on the field for maybe like 3 snaps before that pick six, maybe less. The defense has to get right back on the field and then hold them there. And that's what they did to give the Rams another opportunity to drive down the field. And then lo and behold, there's another pick, like right after that. The defense gets right back on the field. So to have it like a defense that doesn't fold after that and just like constantly keeps them in this game, it felt a lot like the Titans game,
Yep,
except
it
they
did.
actually were able to respond in this one and score some points. Whereas in that game, the offense just completely folded. And Stafford just wasn't able to come back from his unfolding. But this one, in the
Yep.
second half, he did uh, by the skin of his teeth. But they were able to, get it out 4th and 5, and then 1st and goal OBJ. It was awesome to watch in person.
It
I think I
was.
would be more disappointed in the team if I wasn't there and I didn't see the whole fairy tale aspect of it all. Um, like watching it on my couch, I probably would have been miserable the entire time. But I was having a good time just being at the game in itself, so I wasn't as miserable.
No, it seems like you're buying in a little bit to the fantasy aspect of this team now. They're coming together. They won 5 in a row. The optimism's coming back around. I felt the energy from you standing next to me. You're looking around the screen. I don't know. Are you starting to come around a little bit?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay. It took
I
5 in a row. When we were 7-4, I understood that perspective, but 5
Yeah,
in a row,
6
12 and
turnovers
4. I'll
in
tell
2
you.
games is just still scary.
It is. It is. Well, let's say this, right? This Ravens game felt similar to the Titans game. You brought up the Titans game, mirroring kind of what Ryan Tannehill did in that game with Tyler Huntley, Jimmy Garoppolo, right? That San Francisco 49ers game, the first game we lost to them. That's kind of what they did to us in earlier weeks. But I think the difference is this is an inferior team compared to those two, right? The San Francisco 49ers, Kyle Shanahan has Sean McVay's number until proven otherwise. And the Tennessee Titans are the 1 seed in the AFC right now. So you have an opportunity against an inferior team to pitch a perfect game in the fourth quarter. And lo and behold, miracles do happen. So there's a fantasy aspect of that. Plus, you're playing an inferior team that doesn't necessarily have the type of personnel that those other two teams had. But it felt like they were just trying to mirror that same game plan. Like the Ravens' goal in this game was to possess the ball as long as possible, run the ball effectively, play mistake-free football, and play with the lead for as long as possible. They
Yeah,
play with the lead up until 57 seconds left in the game.
right, and then the one spot where they get greedy is before the half, where they go for that bomb,
Yep.
um, and then that's, results in a turnover, and then the Rams score a cheeky 7 points, heading into the tunnel. So,
Yep,
if
which was unbelievably necessary.
yeah,
I
if they
mean,
didn't, if they would have stuck to that plan the entire time and, Harbaugh didn't get a little too greedy thinking that they could just, end the game right there essentially, then, they probably would have won.
yeah, you're right. It was the Jordan Fuller play, right? The interception by Jordan Fuller, right? And that was the only deep shot that they decided to take in this entire game, right? It felt like that was their game plan, was to mitigate mistakes, right? They allowed 373 yards of total offense, which is nearly 200 yards less than what they allowed to Joe Burrow and the Bengals. So they were focused on taking risks in the secondary in terms of the defense, forcing turnovers, and they were able to accomplish that early on with Chuck Clark on Matthew Stafford. Chuck Clark played a really nice game, signal caller. He's a strong safety. He's a 6th-round pick. He's a young kid. And he's a nice up-and-coming player. He's a true athlete. So you saw some nice things from him. But again, it was agitating, right? The Ravens, the offense averaged 5.2 yards per carry on 32 carries, which ate up a ton of time. And then you could tell Huntley, Harbaugh, they were terrified, as we mentioned, to take any sort of a deep shot. And that reflects in the statistics, 4.7 yards per pass attempt. I mean, it's not a game, if you're watching it from a Rams fan perspective, that's overly exciting, watching the Ravens overly possess the ball, control the clock. But what Jordan Fuller was able to do in that situation, it allowed the Rams to score a much needed touchdown right before that happened. You could hear Cooper Kupp Coop over the broadcast. Like that was a much needed drive from the offense. So how they got there was equally important. They were kind of, baiting Huntley to take that deep shot, and finally Fuller shot it over and made a play. But it's just that there was a lot. I mean, Devontae Freeman, Latavius Murray, Tyler Huntley, they combined for all three of them combined for a total of 161 yards on the ground. Like it felt like Greg Roman it was like a scaled version back of Greg Roman's offense. The complexity of the offense wasn't truly there. The dynamic elements were missing. I mean, there were still read options. You still saw plenty of design quarterback runs, and they motion extra blockers. You saw Mark Andrews being motioned as an extra blocker, but it felt like what Greg Roman and the Ravens have been able to do so well over the past couple of years just wasn't all there. It felt like a scaled back version of that. And maybe that's just because they were missing an MVP, right? And they're missing a couple of dynamic players. And
Yeah,
we were saying amongst ourselves, right, as we were saying, I heard Ravens fans shaking their heads like, what is there a drop off between Huntley and Lamar? And I think this game kind of proves that there is.
I remember hearing a lot of Ravens fans at the tailgate and at the game saying that Huntley has a better arm. And
Yeah, they did. You're
just
right.
like a weird lack of trust in Lamar. And I just thought coming out of that game, neutral field with Lamar, that's a game that we lose. It's 16, it's like 16, was it 16, 13 at one
14.
point? 16-14. And, it's like first and goal. And they have 5 yards to go. You got to think that Lamar is going to be able to get that ball in the end zone there and kind of turn the game off almost and just be like,
Also, the delay game,
Rams
you
score a
think
touchdown, then they need an onside kick or a stop with 2 minutes. Like, that's the difference in that game. And then, like, just time of possession. The Ravens had the ball for 7 minutes longer, 33 and a half minutes compared to 26 and a half. The two longest Rams drive in the game were their first, which earned them a 56-yard missed field goal, Gay's second of the year, and then their third, which was the pick that followed the pick six. So
the pick that followed the pick six. You know how I felt when I typed that out, man? I was like, it's just a situation that you can't believe that you're in. I've said this to you week over week. I can't believe this is happening. And you're like, believe it. It's time to start believing it because it happens every
I know
single
it happens so often. That was like, I think my negativity has, like, I was not surprised. I'm sitting there after that pick and I turn around and I look at everybody. I'm like, he's about to throw another one. Like, just get prepared for it, mentally prepare for it. And then they line up an empty. And you're like, oh, well, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, why are you locked up and empty?
Well,
Everybody knows this coming. If I can see it from here as a fan, you don't think that they have been studying this all year? The film is in.
And what was funny was Rams fans around us were on the second pick, at least not the pick six, the second pick, which the first pick apparently was Odell Beckham Jr. ran the wrong route, right? So there was an opportunity to jump.
Right. So
again, but the second pick, though, which was the Odell Beckham Jr. trying to punch the ball out, which was mistaken for.
So he's in double coverage already, and then he sees the safety, and he decides to try to get that ball in there.
And what I was going to say was, if we have to hear the term arm punt one more time, we heard, oh, it was an arm punt. It was an arm punt from like 6 different people around us. Like, are you kidding me? Arm punt into double coverage right after you threw a pick six. Like, be a little bit more decisive. Take care.
What's crazy though is he kind of has him beat, and if you do get it far enough, it could, like, Joe Burrow or maybe who's the Chargers guy?
Herbert. Yep.
Herbert. Yeah. Like, I think both of them probably make that throw.
Well, I mean, you know what? Stafford has the arm to make that throw. And sometimes when you throw a deep ball, and in the last second, if your eye catches that second safety, you take a half a yard off of it and you miss them by that much. And it's an underthrow. But I don't know. It's just a weird thing because it's an extra 2.5 yards, 3 yards. You throw that football and it's the middle of the end zone. Odell has half a step and it's a touchdown. So it's the difference in that. So, I mean, you can go back and watch the film and say, well, is the shot still there? Maybe it was double coverage. Was anything open underneath? What's the read on that play if it's called again in that situation on that down and distance, and then make an adjustment.
And then the fumble is just, I hate the lack of accountability that this team has shifted from Stafford, because I heard now that the fumble wasn't his fault because one of the I think it was like Havenstein missed a block.
Well, and Tyrus Bowser made a really good play to not only get the sack but make the strip.
Right. I mean, protect the football should be the number one concern.
And there's my excuse, by the way.
And then the first one, OBJ ran the wrong route, and it's just like, I'm tired of hearing excuses for this guy. When are we going to say he had 6 turnovers in 2 games, and why am I the only one that's saying it and is concerned about it? and he had like that's 2 games in a row now. Vikings and
The Ravens.
Ravens, where he
Yeah.
just, he figures it out. But my God, it's a roller coaster, and it's like you can't ever be comfortable. And a better team's going to be able to capitalize on that. And
Well,
if that
what was
happens against San Francisco, I don't think we'll be able to come back in that game.
I don't disagree with you whatsoever. And what was the number that we saw today? It was the EPA number of Matthew Stafford in Week 17 versus Jared Goff in 2018 versus Jared Goff in 2020 or whatever the number was. But they all seem to finish in the same spot. It doesn't matter who it is. So going back to your argument, of course, yeah, I'm going to counter it with everything that he's done in the fourth quarter. I mean, you kind of have to. The numbers in the fourth quarter are absolutely
That's
insane. I'm looking
why
at
that's why you can have faith.
yeah, exactly right. And the numbers that
But
I'm
do you
looking at
want
right
like
now,
I guess it doesn't matter because like a win's a win, but like I don't want like fourth quarter like Hail Mary faith. Even though I
no,
know that
no,
that's
and
kind of what he's like advertised as and what he always was. It's like this guy can come back and, win you these crazy games.
it's true, but the numbers don't lie. In the fourth quarter so far this year, 72.8% completion percentage. He has over 1,000 yards in the fourth quarter alone. His yards per attempt is 8.3. So not technically in Hail Mary mode. If anything, if you want to compare it to another quarter, the third quarter, he's averaging 10 yards per attempt. So more so taking risks in the third quarter than he is in the fourth quarter. But yards per attempt, 8.3, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions, no turnovers, quarterback rating of 126.8, which is rounding out his rating, his overall rating, making it better. In comparison, the first quarter, 84, second quarter, 94.4, third quarter, 113.5, fourth quarter, 126.8 in terms of ratings. So he's getting better. I mean, the second half numbers are the set 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in the second half of games this year. So you're getting your mistakes out early. You talk about, pre-snap reads, you talk about reading the defense, post-snap, making adjustments, different play calls, different down and distances, different situations. Stafford is in one of these situations where he makes the most egregious mistake, the most obvious mistake, and he's actually learning from it, right? In a situation where, a lot of these big time quarterbacks, they could make that mistake, early on in the game. You can make that mistake late in the game, maybe they get away with something. But for whatever reason, Stafford learns from it and then makes an adjustment in the second half and gets better. That's at least what the numbers are telling us. Our eyeballs are kind of telling us the same thing, but you can't. Again, it's kind of the analogy of the blind trust faith, right? Because if you're just hopeful that he's going to come back, you're in a playoff game, in the divisional round or the wild card round, he throws a couple of picks. You're sitting there in the second half. You're like, oh yeah, he's going to come back. His numbers in the second half are great, and he doesn't. You're going to be awfully disappointed. So I don't think there should be a blind trust. I think he should just be better in the first half, clean up his mistakes, and we're going to ride off into the sunset. That's all it takes, man. You clean up those mistakes, you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I just I want to win the West.
Yep.
And for it to be through San Francisco is fitting because if you lose this game, it's going to be a really tough road, fifth seed.
Yeah.
And I'm just, but that's just a little dangerous, I think, because I don't know how confident I am in them, having to travel all of those games.
I
I'd
mean,
much rather like see Saints in SoFi week one, and then probably, hopefully, like a Cowboys, and then pray to God that Matthew Stafford can beat Aaron Rodgers like one time in a game that matters.
what's the only fifth seed scenario would be a Rams loss and a Cardinals win and a Dallas win and a Tampa Bay win?
I think no, it's just Rams Cardinals. It's Cardinals beat the Seahawks and Rams lose to San Francisco. Then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, a fifth seed at 12-5 is difficult to swallow, but I have confidence in them to win the West and take care of business. Second or first or second and third seed, I think they're the only two seeds that they should be. What the have their if they win, they take care of business. They knock the 49ers out of contention if the Saints win. So that should be the only thing that's on anybody's mind. Um, I don't know. I think when you talk about this team, we'll talk about their identity here for a couple of minutes, and then we'll kind of transition over to some playoff scenarios, right? I think that last drive offensively had a little bit of everything, right? You saw Cooper Kupp, you saw Ben Skoranek, you saw Sony Michel. Despite the negative the negative carry that he had towards the red zone. I mean, you saw him catching passes. He dropped a couple of passes early on, came back as a valuable pass catcher late in this game. Massive fourth down conversion from Odell Beckham Jr., which resembled. Did you think that play resembled Kevin Dyson and Mike Jones at all from the Super Bowl, where he was reaching out a little bit? I think when I watched that play back, I got a little Kevin Dyson vibe.
Now that you say it, I mean, I can see it,
Yeah.
but no, I thought it was like its own miracle because he's like catching the ball. It's like I have it, like while he's falling down.
Well, yeah, and he already had the first down as he was making the catch. He didn't have to extend to get the first down, but I felt like the way that he was tackled down, he was wrapped, he was twisted, and the ball extended. I was like, oh, Kevin Dyson vibes.
Yeah, yeah, but
Regardless,
then for them to score like the next play on OBJ, I mean,
yeah, that's the thing with and these guys are stepping up in big moments. And I mean, the 2-point conversion call is probably a separate thing that we could talk about. The hook and ladder call, which I think was, they wanted to bring that play back from the divisional round against the Packers, but it was a little bit too flashy. I mean, outside of that, everything that happened in the fourth quarter in terms of the defense, Aaron Donald poking the ball free, Von Miller ending it with the sack and the funniest sack celebration of all time, which I don't even know what you want to call that. Can you
yeah,
can you give us a display of that? I can't.
no, no. It was definitely like a little Baltimore shuffle, though. I mean, he was doing like a little
Something like that.
Miss Baltimore crabs from Hairspray. It looked like
Yeah. I just that's kind of what I just feel like that's kind of what the identity is coming off of now. I mean,
just the.
you're coming off of December, heading into January. The identity is the star power, and
I
these
also
guys
thought
are showing
like
up in big moments.
you're up with like 45 seconds left, right? You have to kick off. All the people, I don't know, they didn't show this on TV, but everybody on the Rams sideline, at least the players on the field and special teams are all like dancing. And I'm just like, oh my god, like just end the game. Like I
Yeah. Why
just
are we
like
dancing?
I saw like Justin Tucker is Justin Tucker. If they were to return the ball like well enough, like they just needed like a couple yards, but then Donald and then Miller. It was great. I mean, we've seen Donald end games with his sack, particularly that Monday Night Football one. He takes his helmet off and he's like flexing. I was like, that's just a great image. Now for Von Miller and then OBJ to like end this game like as
Yep.
the two heroes, that's just that's just the new faces bringing exactly what you wanted them to bring. And
Yeah.
yeah, no, I just think the one new face, and it's tough because you can attribute the win to him, but you could also attribute all of the losses to him. It's Stafford just kind of not really holding his weight around here, and I know that's probably not hugely a loving sentiment for fans to hear because he's the quarterback, he controls the offense, but it's just it just feels like more of the same of what we saw last
Mhm.
year and the year prior, where
Yep.
it's like it's the cluster of interceptions. It's them happening at the same time. It's the complete unravel that's just so disheartening and feels like you can really take yourself out of the game with one single player.
Yep. You
So
could.
it's hard. It's hard for me to just, you know, you want to like punch him or you want to give him a hug. There's like no in between.
You're not the only person that feels that way, though.
I know I saw
I
somebody
mean,
tweet something similar to that, and I was like, I'm gonna take that because that's exactly how it is. It's like he's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
well, and you could, and the thing is, and the part that's so frustrating is you could talk for 10 minutes about Stafford making mistakes. And then on the other side is you clean up those 1, 2 mistakes early on, you play perfect football for the rest of the day, and you're fine, and you win games. And those 1, 2 mistakes, you could throw them out, right? It happens to some of the best players, but you don't see like for whatever Aaron Rodgers is. You saw him on the Manning cast. You could tell his football, his IQ, his football acumen is second to none. But he's only thrown 3 all time pick sixes. 3. Stafford's got 4 this year. So, I mean, it's just the difference in, I don't know, 20 points in your IQ just to be able to read a defense, to not be throwing to a spot, to be able to make that adjustment in real time, to scramble, to buy time, to throw the ball away, to take the sack. I think there's just little tiny things in his game that I think just kind of fell through the cracks in Detroit, that can be cleaned up here in the next couple of weeks. And if, like I said, if they are, they're going to be in an incredible position to go win another Super Bowl. So, I mean, that's kind of the reality of it. I mean, if he can, and it's kind of a big ask because you go back to it and you think he's been in the league for 12 years. If you haven't made the adjustment now, it's not going to come. But the adjustments are not complex. I mean, we're sitting there in this game saying to ourselves, you can throw the ball away, you could buy time, you could take a sack. Taking a sack's not the worst thing ever. If you're not stripped by Tyrus Bowser, though, on the 12-yard line, and then that leads to a turnover, that's the worst thing ever. So you have to be able to avoid those kind of things. And Jared Goff, I mean, that was exactly what happened. There wasn't necessarily the interceptions. Of course, there were some that were really ill-timed, but it was the strip sacks. In the pocket, his lack of mobility, and I think Stafford shows a lack of that sometimes too. I mean, even you saw early on in the game, made some plays with his legs to just move the pocket a little bit to step up. He's not going to take off, which I thought we'd see a little bit more of, but I think the mobility and the smarts just have to increase if you're going to win in the playoffs. And it might not happen this year, and it's going
What
to
drives
hurt
me
like hell if it doesn't. But it could happen
Ooh,
next
if
year.
he doesn't win a playoff game, I am gonna be horrible all off season.
I
I'm
know,
gonna
I
be
I know. Let's not talk
yeah, let's
about
not
that.
even
Yeah,
bring that into the
don't
world.
even let's not even put that out there.
No. But what I hate most is the scramble. I think he did this in the Vikings game. I don't remember if he did it, but it's like the scramble, the yo, I got this, like points downfield and sinks it right into a defender. Cause it's just like the full, like, I'm the best guy here. I'm the best there is. I'm the best to ever do it. And then to like scramble out of like this really complicated sack and then just to give it up anyway. It's like we would have rather you just take the hit, man. Like
Yep, yep.
nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, we
It's
were yeah, we were saying that too as we were
it's stuff
watching
like
them.
that that makes me grab my Golden
But
Road
it's also
bruise.
it's also stuff like being
Did
resilient
you
in the
hear what I
fourth
said?
quarter that makes you wanna, like you said, you wanna punch him and then you wanna hug him. There's stuff like that he does in the fourth quarter. He's unbelievable. He's resilient. He stays in the pocket. He takes a hit, makes a throw downfield to Cooper, always finds Cooper Kupp. I mean, when Cooper Kupp felt
Well,
like a
Cooper Cup
security
was just
blanket.
always open. It's
I
not
know,
yeah.
but when Cooper Kupp felt like a security blanket to Jared Goff in 2019, 2020, and when he had to run a route downfield, Goff couldn't get him the ball. Like, it just didn't feel like there was that level of dynamic when it comes to this offense, right? I truly feel like Matthew Stafford could take the top off. I know that's not terminology that you love, but at any given moment, I feel like he could find a player downfield. He's not afraid to let it rip. His yards per attempt are never going to be down, and he's gonna take the shot. And if he's able to clean up mistakes in the fourth quarter, I mean, that's as impressive as it gets. To make adjustments mid-game is as difficult as it comes, especially as a quarterback who's been beaten up all day. To get hit and then to rally back in the fourth quarter is, I'm going to say it, it's clutch. It's
Yeah,
clutch.
no, it was a clutch performance, but the only reason it had to be clutch was because he made it
Right.
a clutch game.
Of course. And
But
how many
yeah,
times did he do that in Detroit, which inflates the comeback numbers and the passing yard statistics and all that good stuff. But that's there's context. I mean, you can't just say Matthew Stafford is this or that. There's so much context that comes with him and Jared Goff and every other quarterback in this league.
right. I was just saying when he does stuff like that, it makes me want to grab my Golden Road beers.
We had some good Golden Road brews. We met up with some fans. Our friend Pat, who was drinking twisted teas with his family, we got to call that out. We were drinking Michelob Ultras, but we also had some Gold Road Brewery there mixed in, some sessions, some all day IPAs, some good stuff. And you got to stay hydrated during those games because it's a long outing in enemy territory.
Yeah, and then we got our
You got to
tickets
stay sharp.
through TickPick. Friends and family who are buying Rams or Chargers tickets or concert tickets, etc. Use TickPick. Get your tickets fast and secure. You don't have to worry about your tickets not showing up on game day. Your link is right there on the screen. www.tickpick.com/Rams Brothers. You'll thank us later when you're not dealing with any of those fees or issues that you deal with when buying from the big guys. Tickpick.com/Rams Brothers. They
Yeah.
hooked it up for us. So thank you for that. Yeah, it was a great tailgating experience. Lot O was where it was at. I got
Yeah.
some good
Dude,
pictures with the family.
I got everything off of TickPick, everything, and it saved us a ton of money. I'm not even exaggerating, and I know it's an ad read, but for real, Ticketmaster costs you extra money in fees, service fees, ticket fees, whatever it is. I got all of this with no fees. I got into the lot that I wanted to get into. We bought our parking passes, our tickets. We were good to go. We had awesome seats. You guys saw it on social media, and we did pretty well. We made out pretty well. So that's that. Why don't we talk about potential playoff scenarios?
Yeah, let's do it. Run me
So
some.
okay, so the Rams win this game, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lose. Right, so they would be a lock at the 2 seed, and I think the Cowboys can win. The Rams can win. If the Rams win, take care of business, they're the 2 seed. I think the Cowboys can win, the Buccaneers can win, and the Rams are still the 2 seed. Are you seeing anything otherwise?
No, and I'm also seeing the Eagles are going to sit their starters. So
Interesting. Which
yeah,
means
I don't think
Dallas
a
would be a
win
lock to
matters
win
to
that
them.
game. What's the spread in that game right now?
The Eagles game?
Yeah, it's gotta be in favor of Dallas big time.
It's probably like Dallas minus 7.5 or something. Let me check.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah, the Eagles have clinched the playoffs. That's for sure. The Rams have clinched the playoff berth. The
Wait, so
Packers have clinched the 1 seed.
if we beat the Niners, they're not in the playoffs, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So if the
Unless
playoffs that's
unless
true.
the
And unless
Saints
if
lose.
the Saints have to win and the Niners are out. So playoff matchups, if the season ended today, Packers would have a first round bye, obviously. Rams would play the 7 seed Eagles. The 3 seed Buccaneers would play the 6 seed San Francisco 49ers. And the Cowboys would play the Cardinals, 4 versus 5. So that's as it stands right now. Packers got the Lions, Rams have the Niners, Bucks have the Panthers, Cowboys have the Eagles, who are resting their starters. Cardinals have the Seahawks, who are cooked. The 49ers have the Rams, as we mentioned, and the Eagles have the Cowboys, which I listed off twice here. But regardless, I mean, there's a lot that can still happen here. I mean, it's still possible for the 49ers and the Rams to match up in the first round. So for that to happen is not an ideal situation, but it's just reminiscent of what happened with the Rams last year in Seattle. Right, they were a team that didn't win the division. They were, they were close enough, and you could tell that they were, they were the better team on the right day. You could tell if they were able to establish the line of scrimmage and Goff's thumb was okay, they could still lead the offense, manage the game, and win the game. It's exactly what they did. So they lost what, a Week 17 game to Seattle. They beat them earlier in the year, lost a late game, and then beat them in the playoffs. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's if we have that same situation with San Francisco, unbelievably infuriating. But I think a lot is going to be said within this game, right? I think even if San Francisco does win, it puts us in a unique situation in the playoffs. It may make the matchup harder. We're not going to have home field advantage. But if you do win this game, you take care of business. You're locked into the 2 seed. And if the Saints do win, who did the Saints play? Did I mention?
I think they play the Panthers.
The Saints, no, the Bucks
No,
play the
Falcons.
Panthers. They play the Falcons. And I don't know. I don't think the Falcons are fighting for anything at this point.
I think they can still squeak in. I'm not gonna
Some
lie.
crazy scenario where if
Yeah.
the Niners lose, then the Eagles lose, and the Saints lose, the Falcons could squeak in. Something like that. They would be dependent on probably 3 teams losing.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's something to fight for. So the ideal situation: Rams win, Saints win. You knock the Niners out. You play the Saints in the wild card round. I mean, that's
Yeah.
good with me.
Yeah. Rams are. Sorry, Cowboys are -7. So yeah, I was right. I said
Yeah, that game's
-7.
already over.
Mhm. I mean, I don't think the Eagles care. So
Right. Right. Well, it's going to be interesting. We'll continue to monitor it as we go. Rams are looking right now like they're what, plus 850 to win the Super Bowl. So they're the 4th favorite. I believe it goes Chiefs or Packers, Chiefs, Bills, Rams, Bucks right now, currently in terms of odds. And the Rams are 2nd favorite to win the conference right now, behind
yeah,
the
my
Packers
guess
and the
is
Bucks trail.
we get to the NFC playoffs. You beat the Saints, you beat the Cowboys, and then you go to Green Bay. And from there, you're just happy that you went to the NFC Championship.
Yeah, let's take it one game at a time. I know I've said this for a couple of weeks running now, but you got to take this 1 week at a time. Like you can't get caught up in 5 games, winning 5 games in a row, because if you think about it theoretically, it would be a 10-game winning streak that they would go on if they won this game and they won out in the playoffs to win the Super Bowl. Like,
Well,
that's
yeah, I mean,
a lot of winning, man.
Green Bay would have to do the same thing.
That's true. Yeah, but I don't think Green Bay has been on this quite of a streak. Have they won 5 in a row as well? Like, I know
Maybe it's like 4,
Kansas City just got humbled by somebody
the
recently.
Bengals.
The Bengals, right. So, I mean, like that after coming off of 7 straight wins. So, perhaps a humbling loss is something that would do them well. In the great words of the great Dick Vermeil, the only thing you learn from losing is how to lose. So, if we could win 10 straight, right now the goal is 10 straight, and the magic number is 5. So, I think we're on a
Let's do
good
it.
quest. Okay. Congratulations. Our giveaway. We forgot about our giveaway winner. Congratulations, Gary Souse. You are the giveaway winner. We'll send you a message. We'll ask you your size, address. We'll tweet it out to the public. No, I'm just kidding. Let us know what you want because we got you. Congratulations. Rams fans, it was great to meet you guys. Pat, thanks for hooking it up. Hope you're listening. Randy, Troy, everybody that we met, Rams fans, you guys were extremely generous. Hooked us up with everything, invited us to the tailgate. We're super friendly at the game. Ravens fans were also very cool. So shout out Ravens fans. And Nick, I appreciate you doing this with me, man. We have a ton of fun. It was a rather large investment to take a risk, drive down to Baltimore and go watch your team. It always is. So shout out to all the fans that do that. They go on the road, watch their team win. And shout out to the fans who are going to travel in the playoffs and go to the games at SoFi. SoFi is going to need you guys. Nick, I hope you and Ryan are going to have a chance to get out to some of those games. And I think we just got some news that we'll be covering the Super Bowl in LA.
Yeah, stay tuned for that.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. Breaking news. So, yeah, hopefully our squads are there in the end. Cheers, guys. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, and shout out to Gary for fighting a good fight and tweeting about Banjo-Kazooie.
Hey,
And
Gary.
everybody else that did that.
Gary, we all want the new game. Let's not lie to ourselves. Good stuff. Thanks, bro.
Take care, guys. Horns
Cheers.
up. Let's go, Rams.